Hi, sweeties. How are you doing? Welcome to Cimnanya, and thank you all so much for all the love and support. Hope you all are doing great. So I came across this video, and I think we all should see this because each time we try to talk about what is going on, especially in America or the racism happening to people that look like me. Some people are quick to tell you that I get over it, that it's been years ago that it happened, that they are not the one responsible to it. Probably it was what their ancestors did and all that. But trust me, sincerely speaking, everything is still happening. And he went further to talk about how systemic racism never ended and how slavery also never ended, that it's only evolved, which is true. I don't think anybody would want to argue that because it is just, it's only evolved, right? And this is also part of the reason, like he also mentioned something like, that African American history is American history. And this is something that they do not want to acknowledge. They don't want to acknowledge that because how do you want them to acknowledge that? Because all of a sudden slavery was beneficial to Black people and that banned books because it hurts their feelings. Do not teach CRT because CRT is now another word for N-word. And then woke became something else and DEI followed, right? Ban books. You cannot sit down and have a conversation with them, especially when it got to do with race. Why? Because they feel like it hurts them. It makes them uncomfortable. But when it makes you people uncomfortable, it kills people that look like me. Let's get into this video.
Nelson Mandela once famously said that you never truly know a nation until you've been inside its jails. Don't judge a nation based on how it treats its highest citizens, but judge a nation based on how it treats its lowest citizens. My name is Danny Collins, but to the state of Florida, I'm better known as inmate number K80066. Seen as subhuman and reduced to nothing but a number. Because in the United States of America, we treat crime, but we do not treat people. It's a humanity issue. We are 5% of the global population, yet we are 20% of the prison population. We incarcerate more of our citizens per capita than any other industrialized nation in the world. But if you do not understand where you've been, you will never know where you're going. And if you do not understand history, it is bound to repeat itself. I believe that we can all agree that slavery was inhumane and one of the most atrocious crimes against humanity this world has ever seen, right here in the United States of America. And anytime I bring this up, most people will say, well, Danny, that was so long ago. We're not living in the past anymore. We're no longer a racist nation. But are we not? The 13th Amendment says the abolishment of slavery except when punishment for a crime. Crime became the loophole for legalized slavery in the United States of America. It is still written into our Constitution today. Slave labor was such an integral part of the Southern economy that when we abolished slavery, we needed to find a new way to put people back in chains so we could have that cheap and free labor. And the only way that we could justify our inhumane treatment towards our own citizens in this country is by labeling them a criminal. In doing so, it frees our guilty conscience from feeling bad and feeling responsible when treating another human being as being subhuman. And I want you to follow me for a second, because once we understand that Black history is American history, we will better understand our past and where we are going. So at the abolishment of slavery, we created what was called the Black Codes in the South. And with the Black Codes, what we basically did was started arresting people for nothing other than being Black. Black people were arrested for being out past curfew. They were arrested for loitering in the streets. They were arrested for not having a job when no white person would give them a job. They were arrested for working for anybody other than a white person. And what that did was enslave them in chain gangs and took them right back to the plantations to work that they were just freed from. Well, why is this important today, one might ask? Fast forward 100 years and you had Jim Crow segregation. Black people faced second-class citizenship, disenfranchisement from voting, barriers to housing, education, and employment for nothing other than being Black. Then we passed the 1964 Civil Rights Act, the 1965 Voting Rights Act, which said we can no longer discriminate based on race. And what class of people can we still discriminate against right now in 2024? If you answer correctly, it's convicted felons. They face barriers to housing, voting, education, and employment. Now, do you think it's a coincidence that 1 in 3 black males carry a convicted felon label, 1 in 6 Latino males, and 1 in 17 white males? Since the end of Jim Crow segregation and the civil rights movement, we've had a 700% increase in our prison population. We went from 300,000 inmates in 1970 to as high as 2.1 million inmates. That's because slavery never ended in this country. Systemic racism never ended. It only evolved. And if you look all across the country, there's still only one party today who is pushing this law and order narrative in mass incarceration. There's only one candidate right now today in 2024 that wants to give full immunity to police officers. And I know many people are saying, well, Danny, what makes you think that Vice President Kamala Harris will fix it knowing that she was a prosecutor? Well, who better than a prosecutor, a lawyer, somebody who knows this system inside and out to be able to tackle what we can do and find solutions to fix a broken system. Republicans today are taking rights away from convicted felons. They are making it more difficult for us to vote, for us to get education, and for us to get employment, unless, of course, your name is Donald Trump. We have a Republican supermajority right here in the state of Florida, but as a convicted felon, I cannot vote. But Ron DeSantis said that Donald Trump would be able to vote here. As a convicted felon, I was just recently denied housing, but Republicans want to give Donald Trump the White House. And as a convicted felon, I was recently denied employment at places such as Home Depot and Target. But Republicans want to give the most prestigious job in all the world to Donald Trump, a convicted felon. So as an ex-Trump supporting conservative, I realized that I was supporting a party that did not even want me to have rights. I was voting against my best interests or supporting a party against my best interests because they didn't even want me to vote. Because for the Republicans, it's never been about truth, justice, rights, and freedom. It's always been about power and control. We are not going back. Vice President Kamala Harris for President 2024. Let's go.
So this is all I got from this, and I am impressed that some of them are kind of speaking the truth, right? But the truth is that they have refused to acknowledge the fact that Black history is American history, because that's why all of a sudden slave was beneficial to slaves, banned books, Black American history is violent, and all the rest of it. You heard me right. Just ban everything. We don't want to talk about them. We are not supposed to talk about what happened to them. Let's just forget about it because it's old. And like it's been long ago. And when something happened long ago, you are not supposed to talk about it. I love what he said. That when they talk about systemic racism, they will tell you that there is slavery. They always say that slavery was back then. It is no longer happening. But sincerely speaking, it never stopped. It's only evolved. I remember watching stories of people that went to prison and came out to tell the story how picking cotton and all of that is still a thing. But people do not know that, or a lot of people also know it. Mass incarceration and that, they use them. Jim Crow and the rest of it. But it's true. It's all evolved, right? They are still there, walking freely. Walking freely is like all those things are still happening. That it's not happening to you, or you don't know somebody is happening to, doesn't mean that it's not happening. It is 100% happening. And you all definitely know what I am saying. You all can confirm it. But it's only these people that will not want to acknowledge it, because how do you want them to pay reparations? If they acknowledge it, of course, they are going to pay reparations. I feel like one of the reasons why they refuse to acknowledge what is happening to Black people is also the fact that they also do not want to pay reparations, because if they get to acknowledge that all these things are happening, it means that they also have to acknowledge to pay reparations. And each time you try to talk about that with them, you see them deflating, and not just only deflating, they become very aggressive and very uncomfortable. They are always very uncomfortable talking about race or talking about what is going on in the Black community or what they are doing to Black people in general. Like you all already know, this is not new. That's why I keep telling you, try as much as I can to enlighten people to look at Project 2025, because it's not going to be easy. So many people are already out there screaming Trump and all. I am not going to tell anybody whom to vote and whom not to vote and all that, but I hope you vote wisely, because I definitely will still be here reporting on some of the things happening. But the truth is that some people that wanted to get it right are also going to be part of the people that will suffer it. Because any mistake that is being made will affect everybody, both the ones that wanted to vote to the other, that wants to vote to the other person, or the like, generally everybody will say it. But it's better we all do what we are supposed to do to save democracy, to save ourselves, to save human rights, to save women's rights. It is very, very, like already they told you that if they do not get into that, it's going to be brutal, like it's going to be blood and deal, right? They made it clear. So you all are going to do what you are supposed to do. I hear a lot of people saying we are going to vote third party. You are not helping anybody, because third party is never going to get into. So you have to do the right thing. Do not vote third. Like I said, I'm not supposed to tell you whom to vote, but I know third party is not an option.